So there's a campaign in a lot of states called Ban the Box, which was kind of banning the box where you have to check that you were formerly incarcerated or that you have a criminal record. And it's been successful in some places, not others. I actually have a friend who went to prison for 9 years in the US, came out, and then wound up at Yale with me when I was there. And he was part of the campaign to ban that in Rhode Island, where he's from. So it works in some states, but it is often like a kind of state level decision, and that makes it have huge variability across the country because some states are designed in such a way where that's a very difficult issue to kind of make a political priority. I mean, you might have even just seen like with Joe Arpaio being pardoned, right, by President Trump last week. Like that's like kind of an example of like that. What passed as like good law enforcement in Arizona for a very long time was, I think, kind of morally reprehensible to most of the rest of the country. But in that state, if you wanted to do something like that, it'd be very difficult because the politics are just so different, right? Whereas in California, maybe it's easier. So yeah, there are efforts to do it. I think it's becoming an increasing issue just because the number of males that, so the labor participation rate in the United States especially has dropped like 10% in the last 40 years. And that includes 7 million working aged men who have just kind of opted out of work. Many of them have been incarcerated at some point. So the economic effect of their approach to dealing with this problem, I think, is catching up to the point where people are more open to this. But it goes back to the same thing of like, how do you sentence people? You know, there's a crossroads that a lot of these folks are at, which is like, what is the kind of moral tone you're trying to take when you talk about these issues? And I just think large parts of the country, I mean, Canada included, because there's the box exists here too. Lots of people who can't get work because they have a criminal record. And, and I think in a country like Canada that is less polemic on these issues, still hasn't gotten there, it's gonna be even harder for a country like the United States where it's much more divided.